Hello everyone and welcome to another English video. I have with me Jeremy Kauffman, and for a lot of my German audience who are not that familiar with Americans, Jeremy Kauffman is part of the Free State Project of New Hampshire, and he was recently at the Libertarian Party National Convention. I want to talk a little bit about that. And I think I could go with an introduction of like an hour. So thank you, Jeremy, very much for joining me.
Thank you. I'm excited to be talking to you and your audience from Germany. Ich kann nur ein bisschen Deutsch sprechen.
Okay.
6 Jahre in
Yeah.
Gymnasium, aber nichts. Not very much left. It's all fluttered
All
out
right.
of my brain.
It's fine. My audience can speak English, and normally most of them can do. When 2 years ago I talked with Lucas, who connected us, and I was talking with him about the Free State Project, and at that time I already knew your 2 videos where you were at the Free City Hall, or what was that? I actually translated or subbed the your video with "I want to become a lizard person."
Thank you.
It was really funny. The other one was we want to make war so gay. Maybe it was great. And that was I think the start where I started to get to know you, and maybe give my German audience a little bit of background about you, because I think they are not that deep into the whole of the story.
Sure. And I will say, all the translations that you do, that's a real service, and thank you for doing that. It helps keep our ideas alive, spread our ideas, and that's a huge thing that you do. I've done a bunch of different things. Entrepreneurial. I did library, which was and Odyssey, which actually was quite popular in Germany, I believe, as an alternative way of sharing videos. I've been the executive director of the Free State Project. I'm currently the chair of the New Hampshire Libertarian Party. I've been involved in the Free State movement for more than a decade, and I'm raising 4 children here with my wife, Rachel. And I'm one of the things I'm working on currently is this new entity called the Free State Party, which is a private club for libertarians. Also has a YouTube channel with some really interesting long-form, thoughtful content for libertarians that your audience might like.
Okay. The Libertarian Party of New Hampshire is a lot different than the Libertarian Party of other states, or the Libertarian Party of the whole of the United States. Can you maybe tell us a little bit about your experience, what's going on there?
Sure. So yeah, this is an interesting thing. Libertarianism exists in most places as a theory. It doesn't exist in reality. I think the theory is important. I think both its ethical theories in terms of self-ownership and voluntary agreement. I think these are correct, ideas to the extent that we can achieve them in the real world and so on. I think they're correct ideas. I think free markets are a beautiful thing. Innovation is a beautiful thing. To me, this is a huge part of why my life is so great, is all these great people have innovated and created things over time. All of the different things that go into us having this conversation, and the fact that it can take place, is a modern miracle of markets and human freedom that allows all this to be possible. And so this is my sort of inspiration for why I am a libertarian. I'm not for the drug war, but I don't care about it very much either. I'm much more care about the government. And again, that's not me endorsing it. I'm just saying, but people become libertarians because of who has political beliefs in which they genuinely don't care about what's on the other side of them being enacted. Okay, libertarian, and so there's a class of libertarian who is very libertine, very socially liberal. This isn't me saying that they're not libertarians, but they want to be libertarians for very different reasons in terms of the types of lifestyles that they feel like it would enable for them, or whatever. These people aren't my enemies, but they're clearly not trying to accomplish the same kinds of things that I am. you know,
Yeah.
and what makes this especially relevant to the New Hampshire movement and the Free State movement is this is not theory. We have thousands of
Yeah.
people who have come here. We're building all these institutions. We have to make positive choices about how things work. You can't, if you want to build something in the real world, you by just being against stuff, right? You have to build things up positively, and this isn't me. And of course, we should be against the government. We want to shrink the state, but we also have to be building up our own institutions, our own ways of doing things. We have to show that our alternatives work, that people prefer them, that they want to live under them, not in a coercive way, staying true to all of those core principles of voluntary agreement and so on and so forth. But we can't achieve libertarianism is not just against, it's not just social liberties. And some of these people that, especially I think in the American Libertarian Party, their political beliefs might be the same, but they're very motivated by certain lifestyles that they want to be living, certain sort of social freedoms, and they're clearly not libertarians for the same reason, that I am.
I think that's an incredibly important point. The main part why I wanted to talk to you is because it feels like in Germany we are on a time zone that's like 10 years behind or so. I'm just putting a thumb on it. And you mentioned on X an article of Murray Rothbard called "Egalitarianism is a Revolt Against Nature." I think you were at the Libertarian Party National Convention in 2024, which was the biggest success the Libertarian Party in the United States ever had, because they were had Donald Trump, and at least Dennis Pratt was referring to it like that. And you were talking about that you can be this libertarian guy who, how do you call it, always this small L libertarians when you refer to, you have read Rothbard or something like that, and a big L libertarian if you are a member of the Libertarian Party, right?
Yes, that would be the distinction. I mean, I don't think it has to be Rothbard specifically, although Rothbard is is certainly a very fine entry point for people into libertarianism. But well, I think this is a big problem. I don't know if this problem exists in Germany. In America, I think the Libertarian Party has become harmful to people willing to use the libertarian label. I was on the Tom Wood show the other day, and Tom put it as like, these people exist in their own cloud, like severed from the rest of libertarian, thought and the libertarian mainstream, to the extent that is still prevalent in America. But people want to use the word less and less, because the Libertarian Party, which is very focused on, sort of left-wing, versions of things, have beliefs that tend to be, in my opinion, like anti the time. Like I'm not an anarchist. I see myself as living in a nation of some, kind. This can be a bare bones state. It'd be cool if it was, maybe you don't even need that, but I'm so not even interested in that question, right? If we could get rid of 90% of government, we would have achieved 90% of the goal. Why would we want to fight right now about whether you can get rid of all of it or 90% of it, right? 90% of it is the social welfare state and a regulatory state that stops people from, doing things. Like, this is what the state is it's regulations and social welfare. Like, this is what we need to be stopping. I'm not for the wars. I wish we were doing less war. Even defense is to some degree a welfare program in terms of some of these people who are collecting paychecks from the, from the Department of Defense or Department of War now. And by the way, maybe I'm getting off track. I think I just got onto a rant, and maybe
it's fine. It's fine. I know I get a lot of this talk when you just, I'm not identifying as an anarchist. I would be fine if the state is like 10% or something like that. But it's like they always at every meet up with other libertarians, we get into this topic. And when it was a few decades back, like Stefan Kinsella wrote about that, he said at the early stages, like in the 70s or something, it was always the convention that you first have to divide Austrian economics and objectivism or something like that. Germany is quite different from the United States in terms like, first, we don't have Ayn Rand since the 50s. So this vision of freedom is completely different. And the other thing is, I think every American is familiar with the homesteading principle. This is something that just runs through your veins, and Germans don't think this way. So that means a lot of the type of how Germans think is, well, the state has to provide. And this makes you, of course, from the libertarian perspective, it gives you a huge advantage. Now, I'm not sure if things really have changed, but I would say in the last 5 to 10 years, there have become more people ever libertarian than there were before. I don't know if this applies to the United States as well, but we also have this kind of I want to live however I want, and I don't care that much about other people. But we as I would include you and me, have this vision of non-aggression principle and free markets and all this type of stuff, which is more specific. Don't you agree?
Yeah, well, yes. And part of my evolution as a libertarian is, while still completely agreeing with all of these ideas, you're recognizing the reality that, look, the idea of a consistent moral philosophy is simply beyond many people. This isn't me trying to disrespect them as an individual or not wanting to see them as an individual or anything like that. But I have, like, if I want to coexist with this person and abide under libertarian norms, I'm not going to get this person to do it via libertarian books or libertarian theory. And I think what libertarians ought to be, well, certainly I endorse the concentration strategy, but whether you're concentrating or not, what we need to be doing is building up positive institutions that will move the world in a real way in the direction that we want, to be doing that. I think the tendency, and I know I did say that part of what I've realized is there are some libertarians who want very different things from me, but for the most part, libertarians do want to be finding ways that they can accomplish, positive, things that they actually want to happen. I think so many libertarians get trapped in the just being against stuff kind of thing that and it can be that getting rid of something is a positive thing, of course. Like, there are things you want to get rid of, so I'm not suggesting we lose that, but it's you've got to get momentum, and it's difficult to get momentum by just being against, and so finding more stuff that libertarians can be for. And to me, this has changed a little bit, I guess, how I am willing to coalition, where I'm, I feel there are many people on the right wing who want similar outcomes as me, where they would disagree on how to produce those outcomes, whereas there are clearly left libertarians who may theoretically agree on methods, but want very different outcomes, and so in terms of the political allegiances, that I'm making and how I'm coalitioning with people, if we could actually get the libertarian means, of course, I think both outcomes, would exist. But inside of New Hampshire, we're coalitioning with the right. The allegiance is the right wing against the left wing, with the right libertarians being a portion of the right wing, a substantial portion and a growing portion, but they exist within the right. The coalitioning is right versus left. It's not libertarian, even here. That's not the coalitioning that happens in the real world.
I think that's I think you mentioned it in your interview with Tom Woods as well. Like, there are conservative people who don't share my libertarian values, but I want to live next door to them. And on the other hand, there are libertarians, and I agree in theory with about everything. Like, for example, Chase Oliver, who became the president of the Libertarian Party, but he is some kind of left-wing libertarian, and you agree in theory. You are probably both against war and for free drug use and whatever, but he just has a lifestyle. You don't share the same, like, family values, probably.
That's right. And, well, just in general, this entire moral orientation of concern, part of the fundamental reason the difference over borders exists, is what is the moral weight you're giving to your neighbors and your community versus the moral rating you're giving to people around the world who you've never met. The more left wing you get, the more universalist you are in your morality, and the more you are concerned, the more you weight those towards equal. I care. I don't want to be cavalier with the lives of people around the world, but I care much, much more about, my immediate community, my immediate space,
sure.
but this is a general, humans genuinely differ. And this is part of just these differences between us. And part of the problem with the left-wing libertarians is like, they tried very hard to resist this even being true. And then to the extent that they ever perceive that it's true, they regard in like moral shock and moral horror and think that you're an awful person. Because they are like that. That is the heart of the differences on open borders. It's not really all these theories about property rights. It's people coming up with logic on top of their moral orientations. At least for the most part, this is my opinion of what's actually happening here. And so the people who are more okay with closed borders and immigration restriction tend to either, I suppose the more intellectual types might believe it's not possible without this, but part of it is that they give more moral weight to the existing status of things, to the people near them, than they do to people around the world. And I don't even think there's a correct answer here in the abstract. This is just differing values.
I'm not sure if I would agree with that. I think there is an answer, but I think the term is the problem, because open borders, like this term has shifted. I think we all are for free trade. Yeah. But we are against the social welfare state, which opens the borders to pretty much everyone. And this is crazy. Even Milton Friedman got that.
Yeah. Yes. So, okay. The biggest way in which my thinking has changed around libertarianism, and it's a big part of what I'm doing at the Free State Party, where we're focused as much or more on the sort of positive participation in or creation of institutions, is like, there are all kinds of aspects of our society that are cultural, right? Like, even if we imagine a fully privatized court system, we probably are still imagining something like a jury of our peers type system for at least certain types of cultural and local offenses, right? There's no getting around. I don't. There are a lot of bright libertarians out there. Maybe there's ideas I've never read, but most of what I see is this, this kind of thing, and like this. In my opinion, this means that you have to care. I have to care about the type of people that I live around. I have to care about my culture. The idea of certain cultural practices, whether that's returning the shopping cart or how I participate on a jury. And I'm not suggesting, this isn't me coming out as like a statist and saying that, and therefore the government should produce it all. But I think if we care about the types of societies that we want to be producing and living in, we have to be thinking about these things. These are important questions, and it's not just the state sucks, right? If we want to say the state sucks, we have to say, hey, in our world, this is where things are better and our stuff works and it's better than the state, and not just the state sucks, which it does, by the way. Like, I want to get done stuff. I'm not
Sure. But this is what I'm actually interested in, because you every time you talk with statists, or statists don't really think of themselves as statists. They just think, well, the state exists and it should do stuff, whatever stuff that I like, and but the other part is that if you are too deep into libertarian theory, you tend to come. People think of you that you are living in a fantasy world and you will never get anything accomplished of getting rid of the state. And what I wanted to learn from you is a little bit more of how to be successful, because this is what you what you explained on the Libertarian Party National Convention, and you were really harsh against the other people of the Libertarian Party and tell them, you are not successful since 55 years. You have accomplished absolutely nothing, and we in New Hampshire did.
Yeah, I think it's crazy the amount of people. So there's this concept of I picked this up, dead players, and it's like, there are some people who can integrate new information and can adjust and aren't just locked in the past, and there's some people who, like, these people are just all completely locked in the past, repeating the same arguments, repeating the same talking points, like zombie sleepwalking. I don't know what they're doing, but they're dead players. They're not live players. They're not doing anything. it's not, look, again, we don't want to let go of the theory. We of course want to read all this stuff. We want to understand the free markets and these important ideas, but we've got to be setting around people who can actually do stuff, who can actually build stuff. I think coming together in person, if you can do it. I think moving to better places is always a good idea. Building online, online groups, online ways of coming together, start companies, get involved, get elected however you can, build up a personal following, build up an audience stream, whatever. But we got to build, and you got to be building something that we can be bringing people into and that they can be, a part of. And that is definitely what we're trying to do, here in New Hampshire. Like the path to, I think we're getting big enough where we're at the path to, bringing on some of the more, quote normies. But it's like, it's not going to be with the books. It's good. We're going to do it another way.
Okay. I'm not sure if I get that. You want to attract the normies, of course. But
no. You want to have libertarians have to. Okay, they've got to grow their core. Right now, I think get enough of a core. Get enough of a core where you have a defined positive thing that has momentum that now you can absorb the normies. Don't go from 5 people to the normies. They're not. You don't have something for them.
Sure. Exactly.
Yeah. There's a rule of thumb that I have when I build new things, like new pieces of software or anything, and it's that like literally it's a different thing every time it grows in scale by 10. So what your group is with 5 people is not what it will be when it's 50. Is not what it will be when when it's 500, and it's not what it will be when it's 5,000, and so on and so forth. One of the mistakes that some of these Libertarian Party makes is they're like, oh, we have 5 people and we're going to talk like we have 500,000, thinking that that's the way that you get there. Like, I'm just going to behave the way that the group that has 50, if I have 5 people, I need 45 other ratted people who are going to be diehards, who are going to be really committed, and as you go down the scale, then you get more, casual, lower information people who just want to be part of the club, who just want to put on the uniform. This is the way that stuff works. We're independent-minded thinkers, and so that could be horribly offensive to us. But this is the way that the world works. We have to exist in the real world. We have to achieve things in the real world, and this is how you have to do it.
What I think about in these terms is I want to attract the normies. On the one hand, on the other hand, I love these libertarian weirdos somehow. But what happens a lot of is there are people on libertarian meetups, conventions, whatever there is, and there are people who are like in the ivory tower and who want to only talk about ivory tower topics. They're like, I don't know, let's legalize heroin and cocaine and stuff. And you are like, so yeah, you are not wrong in libertarian principles, but you won't attract anyone. You can't convince anyone of libertarian principles by this. And then on the other hand, I want to convince the normies, but I have to sneak in this libertarian information. And I think you were on Dave Smith's show, and he puts that on as well. Ron Paul movement pretty much made that. He said, well, there's 2 simple terms: end the Fed and no more foreign wars. And I think this should be the basic principles where I can do both. I should get the weirdos, the real libertarians, into my position, but the normies as well. It's a little bit different, of course, for Germany and Europe than for the United States, because you're a superpower and you're bombing the whole world.
I will say, like, special economic zones, startup cities, I think these are other projects to potentially be excited about as having potential. The incentive is there more than ever before, for I think new things to be getting created. And again, this is a big part of building. Look, maybe one of your listeners is going to create it. Maybe it doesn't exist yet, but like the government, this is a friendship that America has with its European brothers and sisters, is all of our governments, the graph of a percentage of GDP that is controlled and spent by our nations is just a straight line, upward from the year 1900, through today. And there's no showing it slowing. Even, look, I'm not against end the Fed and no more foreign wars. I think that's a great slogan, and it doesn't have in it anything about the social welfare state. We can't even advance, and of course we pay a little bit of a price to the Fed. I get it. But, the idea of a democracy slowing a social welfare state, never been done, doesn't appear like it's going to happen. Alternatives, things where, that new kernel of something, the price is only going up. The value of that is only going up. The future is going to get weird with AI. Spaces where different little, some alternative forms of governance. I do think the incentive is higher than it's been in the past, and like that is the positive thing to be putting your energy in. I think turning one of these, an entire European nation into, slicing 90% of the government. Man, I'm not here to be like a doomer, but I do not know. I don't know the path to that. I don't see it happening. It doesn't seem remotely feasible.
Well, if you don't know it, who else does? No, no, seriously. It's probably even when I talked to Dennis Pratt, he told me, and Lucas as well, the United States is far more libertarian than all of Europe, and then New Hampshire is far more libertarian than all of the rest of the United States. So it's a different starting point.
I'd be researching like how do we get Luxembourg the most powerful AI system and nukes, I would be getting everyone to move there.
I actually come from Trier, that's next to Luxembourg. So I've been in Luxembourg a lot of time. And Trier is actually the birth town of Karl Marx.
Oh, really?
Yeah. In 2017, China gifted a 5-meter tall statue to the city of Trier of Karl Marx. It's horrible.
Maybe you can take over a Swiss canton. I'm sure you guys need to all get together and like brainstorm this stuff out. Don't look to me. I'm like more ignorant about Europe than I should be. I'm very focused on domestic stuff, to be honest. But something in that in that direction.
We're working on it. Let's put it this way. But
that's not off the cuff. Throw that advice away, of course. Like I just throw things out there. Okay, I'm just trying to get people thinking. I do try to do that a little bit. Just have some fun with it because there are. I do think it's important. That there's something inspiring the next people to create something new, or inspiring the existing people to create something new. There is still so much potential, and I just I always want to move things in that direction when I can.
Yeah, I have I'm under the impression that every time someone big or small wants to get libertarian ideas everywhere, spread the ideas, they build a think tank. It gets huge in like some weeks, and then it's starting to vanish, and people come for interviews and everything. Like one of the best examples for it is Javier Milei for my impression. I talked a lot with Oscar Grau, and this is one of the interviews I have with him. And like I said, the Ron Paul movement was for end the Fed and no more foreign wars, and Javier Milei does exactly the opposite. And now people in the libertarian spectrum are against me because I point out Javier Milei's flaws, and we have to be united against all the statists. And I said, but the two basic points, like we don't want a central bank and we don't want any engagement in foreign wars, and he does both. We can't go from that position.
I would take the opposite opinion on this. Like, this is where we have to center around the best that is possible, even if we find it flawed. Like, unless I think that Milei, was just faking it for 20 years, I would give him a lot of leeway in the sense that he is operating in a political world that is like very difficult to even imagine. And so I would assume that he's doing the best that he can in extremely challenging situations, and there's a roadmap there where, as you said, and I think this is very important, like he ran specifically against the left and a social welfare state in a way that is basically a dream campaign. For me, like I see this stuff as the biggest problems. Like I would rather have the welfare state or shrink by 10 to 20% than I would have in the Fed. The Fed is a small tax. It's just another tax. Inflation is a tax. It's a what's it called? It's an insidious one because it's so non-obvious and you have to run away from it. And the way that it pushes money around and so on in the system, I agree that it's a bad thing. But I would just, it's just one evil of many, and so I find Millet to be inspiring in what he's done. Doesn't mean he's perfect.
I mean, I don't want it to sound that bad. Of course, he gets the message out. He says some important things, and yes, he shrink the government by quite a size. But on the other hand, he quadrupled the money supply, and this is just I don't know, not right. And I wish that he would at least be more honest and transparent about what he does. But he has these monetarists in his cabinet, and he tells everyone how great they are, and all they are doing is Keynesian policy. So I don't like that. But I agree.
I will admit I don't follow all the details.
Yeah, that was something I did for the last couple of months. But of course, I agree with. I want to get rid of the welfare state, but this is probably even more difficult to explain other people because, yeah. I don't know if all people around you in New Hampshire are like, oh, I understand the principle that the welfare state is evil, and he has a lot of different incentives that we don't really like because it uses coercion. But this is difficult among statist Germans, and they think like you get something away from them, and they don't care about the central bank at all.
Yeah, well, this is where culture and politics end up being intertwined. Because it's a cultural, I mean, we can say it's a political belief, but it's just as much a cultural belief because they believe that these obligations exist. These obligations exist and are so important that they're willing to use violence, of course, because that's to enforce the beliefs. But that's as much a cultural belief as it is a political one. But again, the idea that people are consequentialists. So getting, at least most people are, getting people to adopt this pure deontological ethical theory, in which we start from self-ownership and this is inviolable and everything has. And look, again, I think it's a beautiful idea. It makes a lot of logical sense. It's the beautiful foundation of a legal system to start from pure ownership and build everything up through contract and voluntary agreement. Like, I think that's a beautiful ethical philosophical idea. It's elegant. It makes sense. But people just don't care, like empirically. People don't care, and so they're going to be consequentials about it. And so, if they don't want to see, the various consequences potentially of that, and so, yeah, I don't know. It's tough.
At the Libertarian Party National Convention, the people called you a Republican. So some kind of your strategy involves like people of New Hampshire teach them libertarian principles and then having them run as Republicans. Is that correct?
I would say that we definitely spread libertarian principles here. One of the ways that spreads is peer-to-peer in the state house because there are lots of libertarians that are elected here. The libertarians who get elected here are small L libertarians who run as Republicans. I would say as often it's convincing a small L libertarian to go be involved in the Republican Party as it is convincing an existing Republican to be a libertarian. But it's part of the culture. A free stater who goes and gets elected is held in high regard. I hold all these people in high regard. This is one of the greatest, if not the single greatest service that you can be doing to go and get elected and to actually help shrink our state and shrink our government from the inside. There have occasionally been wins in the Democratic Party, but it's basically happened entirely via the Republican Party. As the chair of the Libertarian Party of New Hampshire, I support the Free State movement. I support what works. I would love it if libertarians could win elections in the future, but it doesn't appear like that's going to that's exactly around the corner. And part of making it work here does mean playing ball with the Republican Party and recognizing that, like, if the Republicans who aren't as good on liberty are going to vote with the liberty guys can't just turn away from them on anything that they care about, and so there is a sort of, at times, a trading system. There's discussions that go on behind, closed doors, but that's the coalition that we're a part of. Now, we're a larger coalition than nationally. Part of what the problem nationally is, smaller libertarian Republicans might be 5% of Republicans nationally. In New Hampshire, we're probably 30 to 40% of the Republicans. So that's a huge part. You're not getting any, and that's a really nice thing, is we have like a veto basically on anything. So we can, so we can kill any bad stuff, and when we can find ways of working with, which there's plenty of agreement on. Okay, there are plenty of, even the Republicans in New Hampshire, the non-libertarian ones, are still probably better than the average, federal one. Like, there's a lot of decent people here, and so in my view, things are generally getting better here year after year. But it's small. The changes are often incremental, and the changes definitely come from playing ball with the Republicans.
Can you go into a little? I don't know New Hampshire. I've never been there. I should probably go, but can you give a little bit of the example what you have accomplished with Republicans who made new
for sure.
laws?
So we eliminated the only remaining income tax, which is an income tax on investment income.
So awesome.
We've cut business taxes. We've cut other taxes like the room and meals tax. Like, generally, anytime there's a tax that can be cut. So taxes have continued to be cut over time. There have been more firearms freedoms. We're a constitutional carry state, also a stand your ground state. A whole bunch of stuff on medical freedom. We're considered the best state on right to try. And we're also, in terms of freedom for choices in terms of how you raise your kids, both medically and educationally. We have a great school choice program. It's easy to homeschool here. There's a dense network of homeschool, communities, which in my opinion is actually the number one reason to be here. Top of anything is the culture for raising your
Germany is a catastrophe. For you can't homeschool.
It's hard. Or it's impossible. Okay, I didn't know it's that bad. I'm sure I'm missing some other stuff that we've done legislatively. There's a whole list, I think, at libertywins.org. I think is the correct URL. If not, Liberty Wins in New Hampshire, the page will come up if you search it. So I could look it up and read more. But there's been a whole bunch of political victories. There's a big density of people here. So, like, you're always running into, other free staters. You might see them at the grocery store. There's homeschooling pod groups, all this. There's libertarian schools. There's libertarian clubhouses. So it's a very interesting kind of scene.
I absolutely love that. Okay. We are far in time. I want to make one critical point at the
For sure.
And that's involving Thomas Massie. What tell the German audience probably is not so deep into what actually happened. So for a few sentences, the APEC Israel lobby had like millions in the campaign against Thomas Massie, and so now he's no longer the head of the what's it called in the Republican in Kentucky.
Yeah, well, I was very disappointed that Thomas Massie lost. I was hoping that he won. I've endorsed Thomas Massie for King of America and would endorse him again here today. Someone's got to fix these problems. Like, he should be. So, if he can pull off a melee and do some populist stuff and get the people behind him, full send from me. Unlike maybe some libertarians, I do kind of find it understandable why he lost. Certainly being outspent 20 million to 10 million or something like that is a big deal and played a big role. But having seen, and look, I talked to our Liberty leadership here, and they say, their read is like, Massie made a move. Massie stepped out of line with Trump. too much. And that's a move you can make. If he had won his primary, it could have worked. Now that he lost his primary, he's in trouble. And our guys are very frequently, our executive here is not a free stater. I'm not trying to pretend that she is. She vetoes bills that we would like her to not veto. But at the end of the day, our guys mostly play ball with her, and they go, even if they're going to vote against stuff, they tell her, they talk to her about it. They try to keep the relationship friendly, because you get her pissed off, you get the executive pissed off, she's not going to sign your stuff. She's just going to be a thorn in your side. And so there's a sense in which, you got to at times suck up a little bit, or hold your hat in your hand or whatever. And this stuff sucks. I don't obviously, as a very independently minded person, luckily I don't have to go and do it. Honestly, I just get to talk to you about it on the podcast. I don't have to suffer that, but this is part of what happens here. And I would like it to, I'd one day like to have, libertarian governor and libertarians up and down the line, and where, we can shred the state to pieces. But until that's the case, sometimes you got to play ball. I think Massey wasn't playing ball. He made a move. It could have worked. I wish it had. It didn't. It's also not confusing to me why he lost. And some libertarians don't like hearing that it's not confusing to me why I lost. It was a gamble, and it didn't work.
You said that in a little bit different tone, not about Thomas Massey, but yourself, which I think was really well put. These libertarians at the Libertarian National, these left-wing libertarians, they don't get why people like you.
Yeah.
And can you rephrase that? It slipped my mind.
Yeah, it was, so someone asked me if he understood why people don't like me, and I do understand why people don't like me. And I asked him I said, yeah, do you understand why some people do like me? And he was kind of confused by this question, and I did not have an answer.
Yeah.
Thought about it for a little bit. And look, I have some unpopular takes, but I'm very honest. I'm very straightforward, about them. And I try to talk to people, talk through things with people. And I'm in the real world doing stuff, trying to make stuff work. And so these people who want to chirp at me, when I'm out here doing stuff all the time, I don't give them much credit,
So what are your plans in the next 2, 3, 4 years? Are you trying to support Thomas Massey to become president of the United States? And what's in for the Libertarian Party nationally, and for New Hampshire, what are your personal plans?
Yeah, we'll see. I mean, to the degree to which I'd like Massey to make some waves. I think that's good for the libertarian movement in America. I am doing a lot of work on this Free State Party, which is this new organization. A lot of that's going to be focused in New Hampshire, but for people outside New Hampshire, you can following us on YouTube. We've been putting out these really interesting videos, or on X at Free State PTY, and Free State Party on YouTube. I'm continuing to be, I will be the chair of the Libertarian Party of New Hampshire. We'll be fighting a little bit of a battle against the National Party. We have a website for that campaign at savelpnh.com. You can also follow us on LPNH on X at LPNH, or myself on X.
Yeah, definitely a recommendation from my side. Libertarian Party New Hampshire on X is a really wild page. I love everything about that.
Yeah. Well, hopefully, I'm very supportive of the libertarian movement. Maybe one day we will have an immigration system that can let you guys in. I'm against some types of immigration. Libertarians from Europe, we got to let them flood in, to be clear. I'd like to brain drain Europe of its bright libertarians and get them to New Hampshire. So very enthusiastic supporter of that.
Then Dennis Fred told me that as well. He just said, so I will teach you the libertarian concentration strategy, even though we actually want to get you to move over here, and we move our socialists back to your home country. but since you don't want to move here, well, we will teach you our way.
I like this idea of a swap program. I think this could be a great exchange.
I have never been to the United States so far, and I really love my hometown. And Lucas already told me that, but there are a lot of Germans in New Hampshire. I need to fix that sometimes and come over there, maybe to Porkfest or something. I have to convince my my girlfriend.
Sure, that'd be great. Well, it's excellent to talk with you. I'm glad we got to go over all this.
Yeah, it was really awesome talking to you. And maybe we can repeat that some other time. And thank you, Jeremy, very much for making the time.
Cheers.